Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe for more epic HFY stories. Hit that bell so you never miss a video.
The quarantine zone was a tomb of light and silence. From the bridge of the Resolute, Commander Eris Thorn watched the planet below, a swirling vortex of crimson and black clouds. It was called Xylos 7, and it was dying. Not from war or famine, but from a nanoplague that consumed matter at a molecular level, rewriting it into something alien. The plague had been contained, but the cost was absolute. The planet was now a forbidden zone, a monument to failure. Eris's fingers drummed against the console, a nervous habit he'd never quite shaken. The ship was a relic, a patched-together vessel with scavenged tech, and the crew was a ragtag mix of survivors and volunteers. They were here to study the plague, to understand it, but mostly to ensure it didn't escape. Then the signal came. It wasn't a radio wave or a laser pulse. It was a harmonic resonance, a frequency that vibrated through the Resolute's hull like a tuning fork. The crew froze. The crystalline entities, called the Lattice, had arrived. They were the architects of the quarantine zone, their ships vast, faceted structures that refracted light into impossible patterns. For centuries, they had contained the plague, their memories stored in geometric lattices, each facet a data point, each angle a story. Now, they were here, and they were angry. Eris's calm crackled. It was Dr. Alara Vance, the xenolinguist, her voice tight with tension. "Commander, they're broadcasting. It's not a language. It's grief." Eris frowned. Grief? The Lattice were known for their cold logic, their precision. Grief was an emotion, a messy, human thing. He glanced at the view screen, where the Lattice ship hung like a diamond in the void. Its facets pulsed, slow and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The Lattice envoy materialized in the Resolute's briefing room, not as a person but as a projection of light and sound. It was a shifting mosaic of crystalline facets, each one refracting the room's light into a new hue. The air hummed with a low, mournful note, a sound that seemed to vibrate in the bones. Eris stood opposite it, flanked by Alara and Jax, the ship's engineer, a man whose hands were permanently stained with grease and circuitry. The envoy's voice was a chorus of overlapping tones, each one harmonizing with the others. "You are trespassers," it said. "You disturb the silence." Eris straightened. "We're here to study the plague. To help." "Help?" The facets shimmered. "You are chaos. You are noise." The envoy pulsed, a wave of cold washing over the room. Alara shuddered, pressing a hand to her temples. "It's projecting emotion," she murmured. "Grief. Anger. Fear." Jack scoffed. "Emotion? We're humans. We run on emotion." He grinned, a flash of teeth in the dim light. "It's how we got this far." The envoy's facets darkened. "You are a plague of your own. Uncontrolled. Unpredictable. Eris held up a hand. "We mean no harm. We just want to understand." The envoy pulsed again, a sharper note this time. Understanding requires order. You are disorder. The projection flickered, then vanished. The air was suddenly still, the hum gone. Eris turned to his crew. "They're scared," he said. "Of us." The Lattice didn't attack. They simply waited, their ships hanging in orbit like silent sentinels. But the tension was palpable. The Resolute's sensors picked up energy readings, low but persistent, like a gathering storm. Alara spent hours in the lab, her face illuminated by the holographic displays of the Lattice's broadcast. "They're not just broadcasting grief," she said, her voice strained. "They're amplifying it. It's a weapon." Eris leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "A weapon against what?" "Against us," she replied. "The plague. It responds to emotion. High-frequency emotions. Anger, fear, they accelerate its growth. The Lattice have been suppressing their own emotions for centuries to contain it. But now," she trailed off, gesturing at the screen. "Now they're projecting it. At us." Jax slammed a fist on the console. "So they're trying to scare us off? Fine. Let them try." Eris shot him a look. "It's not that simple. The more they amplify, the more the planet reacts. The plague is growing stronger." He turned to Alara. "Can we block it?" She shook her head. "Not with their tech." But her eyes lit up. "What if we fight fire with fire? Not their fire. Ours." The idea was insane. But then, so was everything else. Eris gathered the crew in the cargo bay, a cavernous space filled with scavenged parts and the low hum of the Resolute's failing life support. In the center stood a makeshift stage, a platform of welded metal and jury-rigged speakers. Jack stood beside it, holding a guitar with frayed strings and a warped neck. "Music?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "You want to fight grief with music?" Elara nodded. "Not just any music. Something raw. Something that resonates with us. With our emotions." She turned to Eris. "You play, don't you?" Eris hesitated. He hadn't touched a piano in years, not since before the plague took his family. But the memory was there, a ghost in his hands. "Blues," he said. "The Delta blues. It's sorrow, but it's also defiance." Jax grinned. "Defiance I can work with." He plugged the guitar into a salvaged amplifier, the sound crackling like static. Elara adjusted a device she'd cobbled together from Lattice Tech, a resonator designed to mimic their harmonic broadcasts. "This will amplify our signal," she said. "Project it back at them, not as a weapon, as the mirror." Eris stepped onto the stage, the metal cold under his boots. He closed his eyes, the scent of dust and ozone filling his lungs. The first chord rang out, a deep, mournful note that vibrated through the hall. Jax joined in, a raw, gritty riff that cut through the silence. The crew fell silent, listening, and for the first time in weeks, the fear in the air began to shift. The Lattice ships reacted instantly. Their facets pulsed, faster this time, a cascade of light and sound that washed over the Resolute. The hum in the cargo bay grew louder, a counterpoint to the music. Alara's resonator whined, straining under the pressure. "It's working," she said, her voice tight. "They're listening." Eris played on, his fingers finding the familiar patterns, the blues scales that had been his solace for decades. The music was a story, loss, pain, but also resilience. It was the sound of a people who had been broken but refused to stay down. Jax's guitar wailed, a cry of defiance that mirrored the blues' raw honesty. The crew began to move, some swaying, others clapping, their emotions bleeding into the air, into the music. The Lattice broadcast shifted. The mournful hum softened, replaced by something new. Curiosity. "Oh," Elara gasped. "They're not just hearing it. They're feeling it." The resonator pulsed in sync with the music, projecting the crew's emotions back at the Lattice ships. The facets on the nearest ship began to shimmer, not with anger, but with a soft, golden light. The Lattice envoy returned, not as a projection, but as a physical presence. It materialized in the cargo bay, its form less defined this time, more fluid. The air hummed with a new harmony, a blend of the blues and the Lattice's resonant tones. The music continued, softer now, a conversation in sound. The envoy's voice was different, no longer a chorus of anger, but a single, melodic tone. "You are noise. But it is a beautiful noise." Eris lowered his hands, the music fading into silence. The crew stood frozen, watching. The envoy pulsed, a wave of warmth washing over them. "You feel. You share. We have forgotten." Elara stepped forward. "We remember," she said softly. "We remember what it's like to hurt, to hope." The envoy's facets shifted, reflecting her face, then Eris's, then Jax's. "You are chaos. But you are also life." Jax slung the guitar over his shoulder. "So truce?" he asked, a grin playing on his lips. The envoy pulsed, a soft, affirmative note. "Truce. But the plague remains." The Lattice ships moved into formation, their facets aligning to create a massive resonant field. The Resolute shuddered as the field enveloped it, the air humming with a new energy. The planet below, once a vortex of chaos, began to calm. The crimson clouds thinned, revealing patches of blue sky. Eris stood on the bridge, watching the viewscreen. The Lattice envoy's projection flickered to life beside him. "We will contain the plague. Together." Eris nodded. "Together." The envoy pulsed, a wave of gratitude. "You have taught us something. Emotion is not weakness. It is connection." Elara entered, her face alight with wonder. The resonator worked. "The plague is retreating." She paused, looking at Eris. "They're not just containing it. They're understanding it, using our emotions to neutralize it." Jax leaned against the console, arms crossed. So we're not just survivors. We're teachers. Eris smiled, the first real smile in weeks. Guess we are. The quarantine zone was no longer a tomb. It was a sanctuary. The lattice ships orbited Xylos, 7, their facets now reflecting not grief, but hope. The Resolute had become a bridge between two worlds, humans and crystals, sharing not just technology, but something deeper. Eris sat at the piano in the cargo bay, the stage now a permanent fixture. His fingers found the keys, the blues melody flowing effortlessly, no longer a song of sorrow, but of unity. The crew gathered around, some listening, others adding their own instruments to the symphony. The lattice envoy was there too, its form shimmering in the corner, facets pulsing in time with the music. You are music, the envoy said, its voice a harmonious blend of tones and chords. You are life. Eris nodded, playing on. The music filled the ship, the cargo bay, the void itself. It was the sound of a new beginning, a harmony born from the ashes of chaos. And in that moment, Eris knew. The galaxy had many threats, many horrors. But it also had music. And it had humans. And that, he thought, was enough. The Resolute prepared to leave, its engines humming with a renewed purpose. The lattice ships had formed a guard of honor, their facets reflecting the stars as the human vessel passed through. Eris stood on the observation deck, Elara and Jax beside him. They're not just containing the plague anymore, Elara said. They're learning from it. From us. Jax grinned. Guess we're not just the galaxy's worst tenants after all. Eris chuckled, the sound warm in the quiet of the deck. The lattice envoy's projection flickered to life. Asterisk, go in peace. Carry the music with you. Asterisk. Eris nodded. We will. The envoy pulsed, a final wave of gratitude, then vanished. The Resolute surged forward, leaving the quarantine zone behind, but taking the harmony with it. The galaxy was vast, full of unknowns, but for the first time, Eris felt a flicker of hope. They had faced the void, and they had sung back. And in the end, that was all that mattered.